And that's really the feeling amongst everybody I've been speaking to. This is not our problem. We didn't start this war. The Hamas did. We are giving fair warning to the civilians. But Joe, the United Nations, the Red Cross is saying otherwise. You heard what Alon said. America has stood with Israel, but there are other countries like China that say that Israel has gone beyond what can be called self-defense. Civilians nowhere should suffer, not in Israel and not in the Gaza Strip. What do you say, Joe?
Barkha, what I would say is, people worry about Gaza becoming a humanitarian disaster. Hello, Gaza has been a humanitarian disaster for 17 years, ever since Hamas took over Gaza. Look, Hamas has purposely impoverished their people in Gaza. Hamas has purposely kept the Palestinian people in chains in Gaza. Hamas has purposely used their people over and over as human shields. Gaza has been a humanitarian disaster because of Hamas for 17 years, and the world doesn't get angry at Hamas. The world gets angry at Israel every time Israel simply responds. Here's the deal. The world now is going to be reminded again that Israel has an almost impossible task. They are fighting against animals. And I say that, and I only refer, Barkha, to Hamas, terrorists who do not have any value for human life. And only Israel has to find a way to win this war and defend themselves, fighting against people who have no value of life. Israel will do it once again, and they'll be as careful as they can once again. And the rest of the world that criticizes them, you should be damned.
Well, that's a very strong thing to say, Joe, that the rest of the world, let them be damned. But that's actually what Israelis have also been saying all day. We don't care what the world says. I think we missed the import, though, of something that Alon did say. And Alon, I'm going to reconfirm it with you. You did say Israel has renewed water supply to the Gaza Strip. I just want to reconfirm this.
To the south. To the south part of Gaza Strip, the Minister of Infrastructure announced, yes, right. Correct.
Okay. So in South Gaza, if we can just update that banner, Israel has agreed to restore water to the South Gaza, southern part of the Gaza Strip, where they have asked about 1 million Palestinians to move to. Joe says, Alon says, Israel can't be responding to the world's perception of it. But Max, there are lives at stake, and there are two views. Is Hamas the same as Palestine? There are those who argue that Gazans voted for Hamas. There are those who point out that it's been many years since an election of any kind took place in Gaza. Max, how do you see what's unfolding or about to unfold? Because guess what, guys? The worst is yet to come. This offensive hasn't actually begun yet, and we are only seeing the preparations for the final assault. Max, your thoughts this evening?
It's no exaggeration to say that the Hamas terrorist rampage had a lot of tactical similarities to Islamic State. I mean, you can hardly get more barbaric. There were beheadings of civilians. I watched them myself. I can verify them. Just going door to door, hunting down families, shooting them at point blank. Rapes, burnings to death, also psychological warfare over social media. So there are a lot of, objectively, there are similarities. But one of the big differences between Hamas and Islamic State is that Hamas is much more popular. So after there were big ISIS attacks, you didn't see, marches and parades all over the West. In support of Islamic State. The only place where Islamic State had any mass support, arguably even, was in the caliphate itself. Whereas with Hamas, Hamas has international support, but it also does have substantial local support. It is a popular group within the territories, especially within Gaza, and this makes counterterrorism all the more difficult.
I think that's an excellent point, and I should take that to a soldier at this point. I want to bring in Shukla, General Shukla. Here's my question. There are those who believe, and I don't, we can't know for sure, obviously, and we should not know what the Israeli military's operational plans are. But this is urban warfare. We know that the Hamas has actually built underground tunnels and underground dungeons. This is well documented. What are the challenges Israel is poised for a ground assault. We have spent the whole day just a few kilometers from the Gaza border, like literally right next to the Gaza border, and I'll play out my ground report in a moment. But General Shukla, as a military veteran, what do you see are the challenges? Because Max spoke about the popularity of the Hamas in Gaza, which means everybody may not move, which means Hamas could still use civilians as cannon fodder. There are all kinds of challenges, despite the fact that Hamas is estimated to have 30,000 in its ranks, and with the 300,000 added to Israel's standing army, you are talking about nearly 500,000 strength. Not all of it, though, of course, will be deployed for the Gaza operation. General, please go ahead.
So, Barkha, just let me make 4 to 5 quick points, and I think as I make them, I'll answer all these questions of yours. See, the issue is this. The events of 7th October, they were cowardly, they were a dastardly massacre. You challenge the writ of a state, the state has the right to respond. The Israeli people have the right to seek justice, redemption, and restoration of their honor. The military, the IDF, is just the instrument. Now, these moral questions. Look at the morality of Hamas. So we will come in and massacre civilians, and when there is a riposte, we will use the civilians as a human shield. I mean, where is the morality in the argument? Now, look at the political objectives that I presume have been assigned to the IDF. The political objectives are the end of Hamas, dismantling of its infrastructure, logistics, operational, etc., and extermination of its leadership. Leaders who've ceased to be, what shall I say, politically wise leaders, but were terrorists. So in every which way, the Israeli state has the right to respond. Now here I will make a nuanced point. How you translate these political objectives into what is military achievable is a matter of operational art. And I know the IDF. I know it's a responsible force. It will achieve these objectives while exercising utmost restraint and within the ambit of the international norms of conflict. I have heard IDF spokespersons say so, and there are various ways of doing it to make sure that your attacks are precise, your attacks are surgical, there are humanitarian pauses. Every attempt will be made to minimize casualties. But casualties cannot be guaranteed if Hamas does what it has to. So the world should question Hamas. Do you have the right now to use civilians as a human shield? Why are the moral questions being asked to the IDF? They should be asked to Hamas. And all the interlocutors of the Hamas should put all kinds of pressure on the Hamas to release the women and children, to release the unarmed civilians, and get them and allow them to go into a no-war zone. I mean, there are larger questions. I'm told Antony Blinken is going around trying to persuade the Egyptians to open up the crossing into Egypt. So, I mean, there are a whole lot of stakeholders here. There are larger responsibilities. The entire onus cannot be put on IDF and the...
But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Okay.
Two quick points.
Okay. Okay.
The IDF and the Israel at this point are the aggrieved. They are not the aggressors. They are not the aggressors. They are the aggrieved. And they have a right to respond. And this argument, I don't think that was a precise argument, but just a comment on it. Popularity cannot be a license for you to become a terror organization. I mean, there has to be legitimacy in the international system. So I don't see the moral argument of the Hamas. We will come to the war fighting later. On moral ground, it is extremely shaky.
Can I